Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 12th episode of Shot of Nostalgia right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. As always, we are continuing that drive down 1998 WWF. We're covering all those beautiful Monday Night Raws, filling you up with those beautiful goosebumps and nostalgia, the serotonin to the brain. As always, I'm good old Mike Belcaster. And, of course, my partner in crime.
Live from the No Sale Studios, it's the ACEFIELD Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro. And like you said, man, we got 3 more episodes to break down. Believe it or not, we're at another pay-per-view already. Somehow, some way, the WWF schedule blessed us with another pay-per-view. Not any rest for the weary. We're building up. We're on the road to SummerSlam and MSG. And holy shit, dude, we got fully loaded to break down.
Woo! Yeah, fully loaded too, man. Unbelievable card. Some of the best matches in my memory from this year happened on there, and we got further process of the choppy PP. So I'm very excited.
It's pretty crazy because it feels like a switch was turned on in the middle of this year, and as we approach the summer, this is the 1998 I remember. This is the 1998 that I know and love so well, because in the beginning, it was a little bit, I guess we were still transitioning away from 1997. And here we are, man. The summer of 1998, there's something to be said about it. I got a young Stephen Acefield, 9 years old, enjoying it. And man, we got SummerSlam in my part of the woods over here at MSG. Woo. So one of the more memorable times to be a wrestling fan. And just like the turn with Triple H and The Rock, and you could see the changing of the guard a little bit here. You're watching it happen in real time.
Yeah, no, it is definitely picking up. Business is picking up, as the good Dusty would say. Business is picking up, daddy. But this has been stellar. We got past that little slow start, the early couple weeks, man. It was a little treacherous, but this is literally everything I remember from 98 is happening in this fully loaded and these Raws like this. We are getting just the best of WWF. Pedal to the metal, man.
And the best part is, as we get into the 3 episodes, July 13th, the July 20th, Raws, and the fully loaded pay-per-views, we're starting to get more clarification about some of this main event scene. And what we really noticed about this year is the mid-card might be lacking. There might be a little bit of work rate that you're clamoring for, and it's not there in 1998. But the top of the card, man, at no time in history, maybe 2001 WWF, right off of the sale of WCW, and them folding, the top of the card is unbelievably packed at this point. Yeah. It's unreal to see the cream of the crop at the top of this talent. And holy shit, I mean, between Kane and Undertaker and Foley and Austin, and not to mention Triple H and The Rock, and DX is hotter than ever. So what we're lacking in mid card, we make up at the top of the card.
100%, man. It's the faces we're seeing is just wild. I mean, from Ken Shamrock to Owen Hart to Triple H, Mick Foley, Undertaker, Kane, you name it. I mean, this is like every childhood dream come true of being a wrestling fan. I mean, from the 90s, I think this is like the best, man.
With that being said, let's get into the happy hour. We have a lot of things to break down from WCW, from WWF, and a lot of things to talk about just in the world of wrestling.
Happy hour.
All right, Dusty, as you groan, we have the July 13th, 1998 newsletter, and we are talking about WWF 1998, but we're not going to be leading with WWF. We're leading with WCW, and that's because during this week of the year, it's one of the biggest moments in WCW history, and Meltzer talks about it here with Goldberg winning the WCW World title for the first time in front of a sold-out Georgia Dome over Hulk Hogan. Peak WCW. I mean, at this point, it's at least the peak of Goldberg's career at this point.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts before I get into Meltzer's thoughts about Goldberg being given the big gold belt? It seemed inevitable when he was undefeated. What was he, 174-0? It was going to happen. But the fact that WCW, who neglected to put over young talent, they really had a reputation for leaning on the old guard. And not that Goldberg was a young guy, but he was an up-and-comer that they built from the scratch, from nothing.
Yeah, I thought it was really weird. As a kid, I was gun-ho. Like, let's go Goldberg all the way, man. I want to see this guy strive. I want to see him take over the whole WCW. And it was cool. It was a big moment at the time, huge moment. But coming back from it and in this perspective, in my 35-year-old age, they did it a little wrong. I think they could have done it a little bit better. But I mean, Goldberg was lightning hot, and he was WCW's response to Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? So I mean, they put the title on him in a hot moment. They were trying to get those ratings back. because as we've seen, we've been covering, they've been losing a little bit more and more here and there, and it's been going not so up Turner's lane. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I thought Goldberg was a prominent figure. He's still very green, putting a title on him. Not weird for WCW. I mean, they put the title on the Giant. He was greener than goose shit, so it's part of the thing. But they seen the writing on the wall. They seen how hot Goldberg was. It was probably a really, really good business decision. And I applaud him for it.
So Meltzer talks about it, says it can be debated whether at this stage of the game, putting the title on Bill Goldberg was premature and a panicked reaction to being drubbed in the ratings the previous week. What can't be debated is that the lesson learned from the flop that Sting was learned from, and once the decision was made to do it, that this time it was done right. Obviously referencing 1997 Starrcade, where they did that whole year of build, and hopefully, wink, wink, we'll get to cover that, of Sting in the rafters, building up towards that title match with Hulk Hogan, all to have him not able to get the title. And then when he finally gets the title, from what I understand, loses to Macho Man very quickly. Yeah. So they've dropped the ball on creating what could have been, and not that Sting need to be created, but having someone feeling equal to the NWO and having another person and paying off a story. Because there's something to be said about, we love stories, we love getting there, we love all of the build for things, but if it doesn't pay off, it almost ruins the story.
Absolutely. And the Sting is a very good example of that. You don't want to see a program built for that long and then have it shit the bed. So, I mean, yeah, hopefully they did learn from their mistakes. I don't remember how long Goldberg had the title for. I know it felt like a very long time.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I know that, the Extra Cooler Boys just covered him losing his undefeated streak to Kevin Nash with the infamous taser moment with Scott Hall and all that. But Meltzer continues here. The 31-year-old Goldberg, less than 10 months after making his televised debut last September 22nd in Salt Lake City, was given the WCW title by Hulk Hogan before the largest crowd in the history of the company. The fourth largest crowd for pro wrestling ever in the U.S. on 7/6 at the Georgia Dome, and garnering, without question, one of the biggest pops in the history of the business. So we'll get to that in a second. Obviously, they ran an arena for Nitro, which we've seen Raw would do that a couple years later for the Toronto, the Toronto Sky Dome show that they did, where WrestleMania 18 was, WrestleMania 6 was, but they had a Raw there at the peak of where wrestling was in 2001. But they gave this main event away on free TV, and it was all because of the structure. And Meltzer references it now, where he talks about the structure of how Turner was paid, and it was all about TV ratings, and it wasn't about pay-per-view for them, which kind of hampered the growth of WCW in that way. But what are your thoughts? I mean, this just exemplifies exactly what's going on in the wrestling war, that they're willing to give away what would be a huge buy rate, no doubt about it, of Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan. That is a match of a match. That could be at your biggest, whether it be Slamboree or Halloween Havoc. You gave it away on a Nitro in July.
Yeah, I mean, very akin to what we see with AEW nowadays. I mean, we do see those big matches being put out on televised events as opposed to being on pay-per-views. I mean, AEW has the advantage because they only have so many shows a year pay-per-view wise. But listen, I think it was exactly what Meltzer's saying. It was a direct response to the ratings dipping. I think they were just trying to find a quick fix, and they did it. And I applaud them for doing it on national television, because I think those title changes do mean something when they're done correct, when it's on television as opposed to a pay-per-view. This was one of them. It was huge, especially being at the Georgia Dome, man. It's a big ass arena, very, very cool. So a big moment, man. Huge.
Yeah,
moment.
And it's where Goldberg played football for the Atlanta Falcons, so it all tied in. And obviously Atlanta, the home of WCW. But this was all to win a ratings war, and they didn't win. I mean, this is past the point of 83 weeks, and they never would win the ratings war again. And the damage was done by bad faith. We talk about bad booking, and you can throw all the great main events away, but if WWF on the other side is beating you into submission with consistent programming, doesn't matter just that one-off. Even if they beat them in that segment, they didn't beat them for the whole show. But we talk about the attendance, and the attendance figure was given on the show of 39,919 on the broadcast. But when it was all said and done, Meltzer says the number with the turnstiles was 41,412, which was a sellout for the configuration setup. And there were a few hundred fans turned away. So realistically, the show was going to draw in excess of 30,000 fans, even without the Hogan Goldberg match, as they topped 20,000 tickets sold several weeks in advance before the match was ever announced. And wasn't until after the show had already shattered the company gate record that Hogan came up with the idea of putting Goldberg over at the time in a non-title match because of his history in Atlanta. But this brings me and ties it to AEW. And obviously they ran Arthur Ashe, which is 20,000 plus. They're not running 40,000 people for a Dynamite, but they have lofty goals. And at this point, seems like if everything goes well and if things are trending in the right direction, AEW will, in their first 5 years of existence, top the all-time attendance record for WCW, which WCW, for all intents and purposes, was legitimate competition to WWE. And I know we're in a different landscape. It's 30 years later, all of that, but it's still a huge number that they're marking here. And I'm sure Tony Khan is a historian. He knows exactly what goes on in the wrestling business, is looking at that 41,412 and being like, we got to get above that number.
Yeah, I feel like they will too. I listen, times are hot right now. This is like we've mentioned it several hundred times on all the shows we do here, but wrestling is at the hottest point right now that it has been since this 1998 period, and it's a big deal, man. So all the luck to AEW, all the luck to Tony Khan. I hope they whoop the shit out of the previous WCW, high attendance card. So fuck yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, but all of the great matches at the peak of WCW, even through 97 and 99, I know when the booking wasn't good with the amount of ratings and the stars they had there, that they never ran another stadium show. And I know that there's some configuration within them that they were wanting to work smaller venues and relationships they have with the TV deals that were inhibiting them from working the stadiums. But it's just fascinating. And then also in the newsletter, he breaks down at this point in 1998, the history of wrestling with how many people paid, the highest drawing matches, and the history of wrestling from 1970 at this point when he was covering wrestling to 1998. And it's just also fascinating seeing some of these main events, and most of them being WWF, but some of them being old school WCW. They talk about the old WWF with Bruno Sammartino versus Larry Zbyszko at Shea Stadium in 1980, and Flair versus Kerry Von Erich, and all of this. It's so fascinating to read the history of the newsletter and compare it to today, because in a lot of ways, these numbers can be dissected. And I know it's different landscape, like we said before, but it's fascinating to compare it to AEW and WWE today.
100%, man.
So he talks about the impressive category that puts the show in for all the hype and the largest crowd ever for a live broadcast television show and all that. He said Starrcade did $7 million on pay-per-view, and with a good long build-up, there is no reason this match wouldn't have done the same or more, as Goldberg should be more of a drawing card than Sting at this point. And that was a given away in desperation to win the ratings for 1 week. Meltzer continues, after doing a match at Starrcade and Nitro, when they put Hogan and Sting back on pay-per-view, it did about $4 million or so when it comes to this, like a movie opening. So I put this in bold here in the notes. In other words, what was done was WCW's equivalent of putting the movie Titanic on free TV and then opening it nationwide in theaters the next week, thus giving away the Monsters' first weekend, the first weekend's monster business.
That's insane.
So we're looking at this as like $7 million for Starrcade a year before. You can imagine with the business and inflation, they would have done more, but they gave it away for a TV rating, which they didn't even beat WWF. This is not the end of WCW, of course, and other things do this, but decisions like this, nearsighted decisions, is the reason why they're probably not here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the numbers are insane. You speak of inflation and stuff. I mean, WWE with WrestleMania this past month, I mean, their advertising money was in the $200+ million mark. So you're talking crazy money to give it away on TV. I don't know, man. It works when it works, and it'll bite you in the ass like it did here, because you know people aren't going to want to see it again going forward, and it just kind of loses the mystique of it all. And you pin yourself in the corner with the Goldberg angle as well, because you're like, what are you going to do when you have to beat the streak, when you have to get the belt off them? You know, it's a tough place to put yourself in.
So obviously we have history to lean on now, and we can look at it through our lens of 2023 and talk about Steve Austin and Goldberg in history's context. But Meltzer didn't have that. He was only 10 months into his career, that being Goldberg. And we have Meltzer saying, so will Goldberg be WCW's answer to Steve Austin, or be this generation's version of Hogan or Flair as the unquestioned historical superstars of their era? Or will he be this year's answer to Sting or Sid or Luger or Hellwig, the guys who were supposed to be the next big thing, but put in the position their flaws became too evident that it just never worked? He goes into him being green. He never quite overcomes that image. He always is leaving a lot to be desired in the ring, but so do a lot of the top guys. If you're looking at Goldberg and you were a WCW guy growing up, and we did cover 1996 WCW, and you led us through that, and of course Goldberg wasn't there yet, do you think Goldberg winds up being one of those historical figures that we look upon more fondly, or do you think he is one of those guys that's in the Ultimate Warrior category of just like he was meant to be more than he actually was?
Yeah, very, very good question. I'm gonna put him in the Ultimate Warrior category, and mainly because how long his career was. Them keep bringing him back. I mean, his WWF run, WWE run was great, but you bring him back in these later years. His performance was struggling. He almost killed the Undertaker several times in one match. I mean,
Ended Bret
messy
Hart's
stuff.
career.
Yeah, ended Bret Hart's career, and it's just a bad reputation following suit, but also, like, again, he didn't really make it a big deal, right? Like, he didn't really fulfill his job as being the guy, so he was never really the guy. So I will definitely throw him in that Ultimate Warrior category.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the whole thing with Goldberg is they're putting all their eggs in his basket. And at this point, with Hogan being able to push a young talent by himself, obviously he saw something in Goldberg. But it's interesting to me that Goldberg has these parallels, and who knows what would have happened if WCW didn't go under and they had better management and he was booked better and all that. I don't know. I think Goldberg's up there, but I think it speaks everything. And the news this week was Goldberg wants this retirement match, and he was furious at WWE for not giving him that platform. And when you watch guys like Taker, like a guy like Triple H who left his boots in the ring, and Goldberg really is a guy without a home because he was a WCW guy and WCW is no longer there. And I guess the offspring of WCW wound up being AEW by all intents and purposes. And I don't see him ever having his moment in AEW. Goldberg doesn't get the recognition a guy like Great Muta gets, and his contributions to the business is, like you said, reputation based. And I think at this point he's burned more bridges but with fans and also with other talent, that he doesn't get looked upon with the same rose-colored glasses that a lot of nostalgia things give us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And it is a shame. I don't think he's going to get, I mean, what are they going to do? You can't host the Ric Flair retirement match as a pay-per-view with Goldberg, right? Like, it's not going to work. He's going to go on this, what he was saying, like a 4-city tour to end his career. Like, it's who's doing it? Who's going to be behind it?
So he also, Meltzer says, he kind of puts the bow on this. He says, when the story is written years from now, people will be shocked that Goldberg's first world title win wasn't something planned in advance and came simply because a company was desperate after losing the TV ratings the week before. But that wasn't all different from how Luthez ended up with the title the first time either. July 6, 1998 could be a historic night for pro wrestling, ushering in the first big match of one of the most charismatic figures that the game has ever seen. Or it could be one humongous pop for a moment that means nothing in the long run. I feel like it fell somewhere in between that. Like, I think everyone remembers this, and I think this moment is one of the more electric moments in wrestling history. When you see this, when he gets him up for the jackhammer and people are throwing things in the ring and you see beer splashing in the crowd, it was a scene. Yeah. And that is what wrestling's all about. And I think, is it the best moment in WCW history? I don't think so. Maybe some people look at it with fondness, but yeah, it's just interesting to see that they were so nearsighted. They wanted so badly to beat WWF in the ratings, and that's how much it meant that they gave away essentially $8 million to do it, and it still didn't work.
No, it is absolutely insane.
So let's bring it back to WWF, and we have the experimental version of Brawl for All, and we talked about it last week and the last week before that. There is a lot to be said about this too, and Meltzer dives deep into it because he got more information, because he called this a genuine, unplanned, actual athletic contest similar to Tough Man contest with the guys of WWF Pro Wrestling has become a major topic of conversation. He says the tournament, which appears on paper a forum to get Steve Williams over as a contender for Steve Austin in the fall based on the legitimately tough individual, started out with poor fan reactions at the Cleveland taping on 6/29. And then they continue talking about how he's not getting the reaction they want. So they probably thought, hey, he can actually beat up guys. Let's do it and have him built up for the fall. Never in the history of wrestling has a guy had to go through this and earn his push. Like, I can't think of another time a guy like Dr. Death, deserving or not, stuff he did in Japan was awesome. They made him go through this to the point where by the time he lost, he won one match and then lost, I think, in the semifinals. He was done at that point because he was exposed. And to me, it's unfair when you watch this. You never gave the guy a chance. You never gave him a chance to get the machine behind him because he was in nobody else. Because what would have happened if he would have done the same thing to Steve Austin, The Undertaker? These guys could have lost and their reputation would be shot. Yeah,
no, 100%, man. It really hinders not only the character, but the performer. And if you can't keep up and you can't do good, like I'm surprised we still see Bradshaw to this day because of how the boxing matches went, man. It's insane.
Meltzer continues about this. As mentioned last week, the idea behind this tournament is to add a new dimension to TV that would get people talking and theoretically draw ratings and perhaps get wrestlers who aren't over a chance to make their own break with a strong showing. He also says nobody was forced to enter and the wrestlers are getting paid extra for doing the shoot, supposedly with $5,000 going to the winners of every match and $2,500 to the losers and a $75,000 bonus going to the winner of the tournament final, according to another official. None of the top stars were invited to enter because they would have something to lose by being exposed, and Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn were kept out for obvious reasons. So the only person has anything to lose. You mentioned Bradshaw, who gets knocked out. The Godfather gets knocked out, and all these guys take their licks in this tournament. Steve Williams is the only guy because he was brought in with the opportunity to be a top guy to oppose Steve Austin as a heel and be a title contender. And Meltzer continues, if he were to be exposed like Mark Mera was, he'd be dead in the water because his lone marketing trait is that he can be promoted as a legitimate tough guy. There's already some speculation brewing regarding possible attempts to protect Williams for that very reason, aka making it, fixing it, making it a work to get him to win. But we see that doesn't happen. And he becomes that peg warmer from the WrestleMania 15 set that he sits there so proudly. And I remember as a kid, like, why would they make a Dr. Death figure not knowing as a 10-year-old, like, oh, they make it years and years in advance. So, and he was supposed to be a guy. He was supposed to be in that set with, guys like Taker, Mick Foley. Yeah. I think Dude Love was in that set as well.
Oh, have mercy. No, I love the Dr. Death figure, man. If we didn't have a good Dr. Death figure, we wouldn't have had that beautiful Mark Henry bone cruncher. So,
so we also have Steve Austin and Mankind both missing the weekend shows in Canada where they were scheduled to oppose each other in the main events. They had Austin doing this foot brawl from Foxborough Stadium, an arm wrestling match where they were building up this thing in New England, which, spoiler alert, it won't happen because I'm researching. I'm like, I've never heard of foot brawl, this house show that happened at a football stadium. Well, the reason why is because it never happened. There was a very huge disappointment to the current standards of the industry as far as selling tickets. And we'll read in the next newsletter that they'll cancel it. So they never did it. But we have Steve Austin, Mankind, Taker still banged up. All these guys are still fighting injuries, but they're all tough. I mean, Mankind did not suffer any broken bones in the Hell in a Cell match, which is crazy. Only badly bruised ribs and soft tissue damage. And then he needed a whole bunch of dental work to fix his mouth. But it's insane that he doesn't have, he wasn't really badly hurt.
No, 100%. And the fact that he went to go do minimal dental work because he loved the look of not having teeth because it thought it made his character that much richer. That's brilliant, man.
We also had Triple H missing all the house shows this weekend in Vancouver, British Columbia, because he was working on an episode of Pacific Blue on USA.
Ooh.
And WWF is also trying to get USA to use Adam Copeland, aka Edge, as an actor on its sleazy TV shows. So I thought that was interesting enough. And we also had this pay-per-view that's coming up next in July, 7/26, which we now know as Fully Loaded. The original name, according to Meltzer, was Off With Their Heads, which never heard of that. They had, obviously, the guillotine at King of the Ring. Maybe they had something going on with torture devices. But I enjoy the Fully Loaded thing. I know it's tied in with DX, with the bazooka, the water guns. I like Fully Loaded better than Off With Their Heads.
I really enjoyed Fully Loaded growing up. I thought it had a nice ring to it. It was a good show. Always a good show.
We also had SummerSlam getting the rights from AC/DC to Highway to Hell, and they're going to be able to use the song in all promotions of the card, which really adds to it. I like when they have a legitimate song that goes with it, and Highway to Hell is a classic. And every time I hear that song, I think of WWF 1998. I really do. And as a kid, I always did. I thought the song was made for the pay-per-view, not knowing it actually existed prior. So going either way.
The two fell hand in hand together, man.
In the July 20th, 1998 newsletter, we have a whole bunch of stuff about Dennis Rodman and its success with WCW. So Dennis Rodman was brought into WCW, and Meltzer continues to compare it with all the celebrities brought into wrestling and the risk you take with that. And he said, Rodman and another age, he considered something entirely different. Sure, some of his actions are largely an exercise in self-promotion, and some, like blowing off practice in the middle of the playoffs, or something different, but he can get away with it because he can play. Actually, that is probably not a lot different from what would have happened in previous generation, except the media would have covered it as in covering for him in those days rather than making a huge issue of it. He continues talking about him strengthening WCW's name, his run there, even though it didn't have as much profitability as they thought it would, it brought him to the landscape, and people were talking. And obviously we talked about Bob Costas and all the other people covering basketball during the playoffs at this time, with the Bulls being a very good team. Rodman was at the forefront of it, and they were making fun of it. But we also talked about WWF and WCW. All press is good press, getting people to talk about wrestling. And if it brought a few eyes in just as curiosity to see what the hell Dennis Rodman is doing, I guess it was worth it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he was the bad boy of the Bulls, so like having him come in and join the NWO, it made perfect sense. Good crossplay, good cross promoting, man.
So Meltzer talks about this, comparing it to Tyson. He said, like WWF found out earlier in the year in dealing with Tyson, or perhaps more importantly, the handlers of Tyson, when doing a TV soap opera, it becomes quite unnerving when you never know until almost the last minute if one of the main characters is going to show up for his role. Mike Tyson was supposed to make a lot more Raw appearances than he did. But in the end, the buy rate came in, and he was worth it, even if the trust factor in what Tyson would do was so low. He ended up playing only a tiny role in the WrestleMania that realistically was built completely around him. But people bought the show, and Steve Austin got the rub, and he's a bigger star now than he would have been without it, even though he'd been a huge star without it, just as Hogan got Mr. T 13 years earlier. WCW is going to continue with Rodman throughout 97. We saw him in the beginning of 97. He continues through 98. Work rate be damned. I don't think Rodman had the same effect that Mike Tyson had on. I just don't think he did, because he never gave that rub to anybody. He was his own entity.
Yeah, no, he came in being Dennis Rodman. He didn't come in trying to like, how can I make this better? What can I do to make this better? It was all about him. He had the ego was bigger than hit the paycheck probably. So, but it was interesting. It did bring some eyes on the platform. Rodman was very controversial at the time. So good publicity stunt, but not a good payoff.
So he continues, like Lawrence Taylor before him, and even Mike Tyson for that matter, somehow participating in pro wrestling is worse than drug problems or jail sentences, and altogether different from an athlete using his name to try to break into a business like acting or announcing when they haven't paid their dues or actually qualified for. So that's obviously talking about the reputation of wrestling in the mass media, where people are looking down upon it. And that's so different now. We see so many wrestlers cross over, and The Rock pretty much paved that way. But you got John Cena, Dave Bautista, even Edge was in that Viking show. So it's just like commonplace that these dudes are just accepted. And in a lot of ways, they are encouraged because of their ability to work on the fly. One take is wrestling, and they don't have to, these guys are almost bred for this, which is insane.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Meltzer continues, when the smoke cleared, it was probably still wasn't out of Rodman's eyes. It wasn't altogether different from most WCW pay-per-view events. Some good wrestling underneath and matches that get progressively worse until climaxing with Hogan stumbling around in a poor match that usually draws a hell of a buy rate. Obviously referencing the tag match that Rodman was a part of with Karl Malone. DDP was involved as well. So, we're not covering WCW 1998. I think we'd be amiss if we didn't mention it. So that is happening because Rodman, who was out partying the night before, he was resting on the turnbuckle for most of the match, looking like he was sleeping. So interesting enough. I mean, it was WCW took a risk, and AEW took a risk with Mike Tyson. They caught him on camera yawning at Double or Nothing with the TNT title. So you take a risk with these guys, and obviously the risk has to be worth the reward you get from it. And I would say history has shown maybe Rodman wasn't worth the money you paid for him. Maybe Karl Malone wasn't worth the money you paid for him, but they're following that model where, WWF did it over and over again. WWE continues to do it. Bad Bunny. I mean, all that stuff, it brings a different eyes to the product. And at this point, why not? If Turner's willing to sign the check, why not?
Absolutely. But it's different now because you got people like Bad Bunny and Logan Paul who are talented workers. They get out there, they show off their stuff. They're not trying to just take a paycheck and sleep on the turnbuckle pad,
Yeah, $750,000 is what Rodman was estimated to be paid for that one match. So a big deal. So we also have the numbers for Hogan and Goldberg's title change in the first quarter hour in history of pro wrestling was the first ever to reach 5 million homes, drawing 5,054,000 homes. 54,000 homes, in excess of 7 million total viewers, or a 6.9 rating and 11.8 share, breaking the all-time record of 4,774,000 homes set by the match where Hogan won the title from Savage after a one-day reign on 420. The combined audience of both shows in the final hour hit another all-time peak with 7,873 homes, or a combined 10.75 rating and an 8.3 share, with the WWF billing a triangular match for the number one contendership with Undertaker, Kane, and Mankind, which didn't quite take place as the TV main event. that being said, dude, the amount of people watching wrestling in this era, it's never be touched again. We all talk about when Dynamite hits just above 1 million, and when WWE for SmackDown does 1.5 or close to 2 million, everyone is just like, man, excellent week. And I understand, we say it every week, there is different options for TV. People can stream whatever they want, and it's not the same. Anytime you have close to this amount of people, millions upon millions of people watching wrestling, it just shows how the interesting part is more socially acceptable now, but more people were enjoying it then. It's interesting, right?
No, it was like any vice, you know, like you came when it was on, it was your thing, and then you went to work the next day, whether you had to hide it up or you were very, very open about it. And it was like that with school, it was like that with work, it was like that any social setting you would be in. But I was always the kid rocking the Y2J shirt and not giving a fuck, because you know who's got time for that.
As I mentioned, the August 8th Foot Brawl show from Fox New England was quietly canceled by WWF due to poor advance, and Meltzer said it was the first bad sign during the year where business has been booming. As mentioned last week, only a little more than 2,000 tickets had been sold for the show in the large stadium after a few days of sales, a number considerably less than was expected. The hope for pickup in sales on the 7/10 event at the Fleet Center didn't materialize, and they cut their losses to cancel the show. So that's why we didn't ever hear about it. They were looking to do a stadium show. It didn't work out. And sometimes, I mean, and I think about if AEW backed out of doing, and I know Wembley's not the same as Foxborough where the Patriots play at Gillette, but imagine AEW backed out of doing something like that. I mean, people would be ripping on them. So no one ever talked about this. Again, different age, no social media to blast them, but they quietly got away with it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's missing the Foot Brawl event.
So we also had Steve Austin having a photo shoot. We talk about how he's transcending these, just wrestling. He's becoming an absolute icon in the world of entertainment. The biggest, and people don't understand this, if you're a younger person listening to this or watching this, the importance of being on TV Guide. And I know TV gets funny now. You can look up what's on TV or who's even using cable anymore, but the TV Guide was so important. It'd be sitting right in the register aisle. You pick it up, and there it was. Steve Austin, wrestlers were all over it. And I remember the TV Guide was very important, as far as it was always on the table in my living room, where you thumb through it and see what was on TV. And it was a mechanism to hype things up, and wrestling was first and foremost. Do you remember the TV Guide in your house?
Oh, I absolutely do. I remember the whole wrestling line. I went nuts. We ran the Walgreens the second I found out they were available. I tried to get every cover possible. It was super cool. But a TV Guide was great, man. There was little articles involved in it. They kind of hyped you up on the shows. So it was a little bit more than your standard scrolling guide that you would get on Channel 4 or whatever. So it was good to have, and there was some great insight into there. But it was always a big deal to be on the cover of TV Guide.
Yeah, Meltzer says the fact that Steve Austin was on the cover, not just an insert. He said, I can't recall a wrestler ever getting a cover, although Hogan may have gotten a small insert photo on the cover of 1990 when they were doing its biggest TV stars of the decade. And he said, the day Austin's photo hit the stands, it is official sign to the mainstream media that Hogan is done because a wrestler had a major magazine cover that virtually everyone that goes shopping for food at any time, whether they buy it or not, will see TV Guide cover, and it wasn't Hogan. So therefore, Hogan becomes officially yesterday's news.
It's insane.
It's crazy how the important of because again, TV Guide probably seems meaningless to people, and people forget the blue channel, channel 14 for me. It was the blue channel where you would sit there and look what was on TV. That was the only way you knew what was coming on, and to see what it was. And I don't even know if the blue channel exists anymore. I'm sure it does for a couple of the old heads. They appease and leave it on. Why not? It's just a streaming thing now.
Yeah, they got them in the hotels when you try to go on that shitty service and you're trying to skip through the bad channels to get to the good stuff.
Well, that's it for the newsletter. Let's hop into the first Raw, the July 13th, 1998 Raw from East Rutherford, New Jersey, Continental Airlines Arena. Let's get our fix.
Get your fix.
All right, like I said, the July 13th, 1998 Raw is War from East Rutherford, New Jersey, Continental Airlines Arena. And our current champs right now, Belcaster, our champ is still Steve Austin. He's our world champ, 6/29, 1998. He's a TV Guide cover boy. Intercontinental champion, The Rock, 12/8/97. He won it. The World Tag Team Champions, not for long, though. The New Age Outlaws won it back on March 30th, 1998. The European champion, Triple H won it on 3/17/98. And of course, our light heavyweight champion in 1998, although he doesn't defend it anymore, Taka Michinoku won it back on December 7th, 1997. We saw a couple of defense in the beginning of the year, not so much now. He's involved in mid-card feuds and Kaientai and Val Venus and blah, blah, blah. They quickly took all the emphasis off of it. What was an exciting division has crumpled to nothing, but I digress.
Yeah, no, listen, it was doing really good up until Kaientai came in. And they were just like, screw it. This is way more entertaining than that.
So we have Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler leading us into New Jersey, and we get Shawn Michaels making a surprise return. He joins Jim Ross and King on commentary. His hair looks cut. He has no stubble, no nothing. He looks like he's clean shaven. He said, the reason I'm back at the Bash at the Beach was so bad, I felt personally responsible to the wrestling fan to come back and hopefully make you all happy again. So Wrestling War speaking there, and he's just, obviously ribbing his friends being over in WCW, but nice to see Shawn Michaels back, and we'll see him in limited capacity as the commissioner and all that stuff, but he's still a long way away from getting in the ring. Not until 2002 we'll see him return to take on Triple H at SummerSlam, and we're a long way away, so it is refreshing to see him, but so much has passed since he last was on our screen. We covered that at Royal Rumble 98, and things have they've changed drastically in less than a year.
No, absolutely. It's crazy, just to think about the time frame from how long he's been gone. It's not that long, right? So much has happened, but then you look at the time frame of how long until he actually steps back in the ring again. So much happens. It's insane that he had to take that, or that he did take that much time off. But he looked good here. I was genuinely surprised to hear the music. I seen him walking out. He looked good. He looked healthy. He looked happy. He looked like he was missing it a little bit. So good to see Shawn back on the TV, hitting the commentary table. Love the Bash at the Beach gig. It was a good stuff.
Yeah, it's so interesting with 4 years. So 98 to 2002 is 4
That's
years.
insane.
And go back 4 years from now, that'd be like the difference between beginning of AEW and now. And it doesn't seem like that much time has passed. And some program, like the Bloodline storyline's been going on for 4 years. Roman Reigns has been champion for 3 years. And I don't know. Time at this point, I understand it's probably because we're younger. Time moved in such drastic intervals where now it just feels like, I can't believe 2020 was 3 years ago, and I can't believe we're moving into 2020. It's insane because I don't know, but we lead to our first match here. Vader has this profile match opening the show with Undertaker. Lead us through. We have Paul Bearer, Kane, and Mankind at ringside getting a closer look at Taker. But this is like the tail end of Vader as he's circling the reign of his WWF career.
Yeah, very, very sad. But listen, it is for as short of a match as it was very interesting. Good to see Taker and Vader brawling, big dudes, both good, brawling type guys. They beat the shit out of each other. You love it. Obviously we're getting some foolery from Kane, Mankind, and Paul Bearer. They're just going back and forth with it. But I mean, not in a long match. Taker gets Vader with a very impressive choke slam and tombstone, and it closes it down in 4 minutes. It was crazy, but Mankind, you could feel the animosity building between Kane, Mankind, Taker. It's so damn good, man.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was getting Taker back on the winning streak and building up more. And this was just building towards that match, as you mentioned. Fully Loaded is going to be the tag title match, and Kane and Mankind and Paul Bearer, they're all tied together. Shawn Michaels was so good on commentary here. He was actually really calling the moves. He was saying that Taker didn't hook the leg and Vader was making mistakes. And it was really interesting to see kind of Shawn Michaels being a serious character.
Yeah.
Of course he was still Shawn Michaels and you could tell he was still the character, but it wasn't the DX commentary we got making dick jokes and stuff like that. It was pretty by the book commentary, Gorilla Monsoon style. Yeah,
no, very akin to when Punk would join commentary back in WWE. And he was really good at it. So you weren't expecting it. That's how I felt with it too. It was really awesome, man. And he was legit calling stuff, a rarity from a high profile wrestler hopping on the commentary booth, man.
So we have, after the match, shenanigans. Mankind wanted Undertaker to wanted to nail Undertaker with a chair right after the bell, but Kane grabbed it away and said, didn't say anything, but looked at him no, let's save it for another day. And as Taker was leaving to the floor, he grabbed his own chair, and then Kane knocks out Vader instead. And that was pretty much it. So I guess just sending a message to Taker that this isn't over. And we got another symbol of Edge in the crowd. And now he's just sort of sitting there. And obviously his debut match was hurting and breaking Jose Estrada's neck for the countdown. That's just a blip in the radar for Edge. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to figure out what's going on with Edge. And aside from the whatever shitty TV shows in USA they want him to act in.
Pacific Blue, man.
So we have a Brawl for All match here, and it's not much to talk about here. This is Bart Gunn defeating Bob Holly by judge's decision. This is round 3. So, yeah, I mean, this is Bart won the match by hitting the most punches at a score of 15-0, and Bob Holly was on the defensive. Not that I was paying that close attention to this, but Bart Gunn wanted a handshake, and then Bob Holly pie-faced him and then had a brief scuffle after it, and it was broken up. So, yeah, this is Brawl for All. The crowd could care less about this. I could care less, but Bart Gunn is on his way to the finals, man. He's going to wind up getting all the way to face Butterbean. I guess technically he does win Brawl for All, and he has the unenviable task of facing Butterbean at WrestleMania 15, where he gets his own ass knocked out.
Yeah, man. The only thing, the good takeaway of this, I do really like the aesthetics of the lighting. The presentation of it is cool because they switch it up a little bit. But besides that, the rest of it, it's drizzling shits. I'm good, man.
So they were showing some more of the Nation parody on DX that we saw last week, and we also go to the Nation. Jason Sensation joins the commentary team to do other imitations of WWF superstars besides Owen. So when he's talking about Bret Hart, Sean sarcastically wonders who Bret is and calls him a mid-carder. Jason Sensation says he's living a lifelong dream here, and he tells he has nothing but respect for everybody. And yeah, they just keep hyping him up that he's funny. I don't know. I don't really find it funny, but I guess it fits the time. It's very slapstick humor, but people were liking it at the time.
I want to know how he got booked. That's my one question. Like who found him? Like Bruce Pritchard was like, this Jason Sensation guy's got it going on, man. Wild, absolutely wild.
I just remember the moment, and I think we're going to cover it soon, where he gets finally put in the sharpshooter and his mouth starts to bleed from, internally bleeding or whatever from Owen Hart. I popped for that one. I popped for that moment. That was the moment I popped for because I was an Owen guy growing up.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So we go back to the locker room with the Nation. The Rock is, talking about everything going on, specifically Triple H, because they're building up to that fully loaded 2 out of 3 falls match. The Godfather was talking about Billy Gunn. Mark Henry was talking about X-Pac. D'Lo talked about Road Dogg, and then Owen wants to come to ringside and beat the absolute shit out of Jason Sensation. Jerry Lawler is just continuing to antagonize Jason Sensation and imitate Owen. Owen runs down to ringside and does exactly what he said he would do. He slapped the piss out of Jason Sensation. Then Owen takes Jason Sensation to the ring, and this is the moment. We get another moment, put him into the sharpshooter, and the Nation comes down and try to cool him down, and the Nation clears out, and we go to commercial. So this is the moment where I enjoy of Owen Hart beating the shit out of Jason Sensation, and here it is. So
well-deserved.
Yeah, well-deserved, and this was the Nation's response to the DX parody. They did it with a little more tact than DX did.
We got to see if we can find Jason Sensation, get him on the podcast one day. Feel like he's
doing right now?
Unspoken soldier. He's got to be. I don't know.
He's got to be on Instagram. The guy, there's no way.
Absolutely. He probably still has all the Owen makeup for the nose and stuff, and he's caution tape in his house. But yeah, man, very interesting. We need to know where Jason Sensation is now.
Do we know? Like, I have no idea where he came from. Is there some? Oh, is he just a guy that was discovered?
He was like, it seems like we found him on YouTube, but there was no fucking YouTube back then.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know who he popped. He's like, God damn, kid, we like your Owen. You're booked. Like, it's wild fucking circumstances.
So our next match here was the aforementioned Nation Domination. Owen Hart, who got warmed up by beating up Jason Sensation, teams with The Rock, taking on the combo of DX of X-Pac and Triple H. Of course, China in their corner, so you have to watch out. Cover this match for us. Tell us what happens. This was a fun tag match. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. No, it was really good. Very good build up for the pay-per-view coming up. Very good build up for just the angle between DX and the Nation. Loving the Nation under the Rock's regime, right? Like it's good. They got a nice vibe to it where we're getting more realistic people, character wise and stuff like that. But this was great. A lot of good back and forth. We got action between Owen and X-Pac. We got action between The Rock and Triple H. We got China out there fucking around. Like it was some really good stuff. DX got the win, man. It was a shocking win for me. I was expecting The Rock to get in there. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I was like, hell yeah, man. But listen, it was a 7-minute match. It was great. We had a fun time watching it. Definitely one of the highlights of this Raw. Very, very fun.
The fact that X-Pac pinned The Rock is kind of shocking, and I know it was shenanigans, as you mentioned, and Triple H hit The Rock in the face of the European title. X-Pac rolled him up. He thought we get a 3 there, but no. Triple H gets knocked off the apron, but turns around right into the X Factor, and then Rock gets pinned by X-Pac. And I understand X-Pac is on the uphill swing, and Rock is still a mid-card guy. He is the IC champion, so it's not too far-fetched the two guys would commingle, but it's a little bit jarring to see X-Pac pin The Rock like that. But Rock was eating pins. I mean, people talk about his rise, and if you model his push for other guys, he wasn't destroying the roster. We saw him lose to Farouk. We'll see him lose to Triple H. Like he takes his losses, and I guess his charisma is just undeniable at this point. But it's not like he was being booked like Goldberg on the other side of things, where they're like, oh, he's the next champion. It was a slow grind for The Rock to eventually get there.
100%. It built the character up better. It built the persona better, and it made you like him more. Like when he would take those losses, you'd see the sincerity on his face. He was great at it. He knew how to take a loss and make it important. Not a lot of guys do.
So this next match here, and it's not much to talk about, but Steve Blackman defeated Mark Merrow with Jacqueline in his corner, 2 minutes and 9 seconds. And they're just building up the bikini contest that's coming up between Sable and Jacqueline at the pay-per-view. The crowd was very into this match. They were chanting Sable, and they were very into Sable and Jacqueline at this. They weren't into the action in the ring. But, obviously Mark Merrow gets hit with a bicycle kick. And again, this is just using wrestling to build up some out of the ring stuff and be a memorable moment of Fully Loaded. Of course, we'll discuss it soon about Sable's bikini or lack thereof and Jacqueline's bikini and King's reaction. Classic.
Absolutely, man.
The next match here is for the tag team championship, and it's the New Age Outlaws defending their titles against Kane and Mankind. Man, this is something that we have all right, so breaking this down, going into this, obviously Kane and Mankind they're not a typical team. So with Kane and Mankind being this unlikely duo, and especially on Raw in this era, as I'm watching this, I'm like, there's no way that they're going to just take Kane and Mankind and supplant the tag titles on them. But they did. And this was a quick match, 5 minutes and 9 seconds. They go back and forth. This was pretty fun. I mean, the New Age Outlaws are clicking on all cylinders here. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn are just the utmost tag team. And
over as hell.
Kane and Mankind involved here, they are great as well. Just their dynamic. And Mankind's really folding into this new character of him, where he's sort of looking for love in weird places. And he's taking some do love stuff away from that character. And he seems to be not the same since that moment where he got tossed off the cell. And not that they're saying it, but we get some shenanigans, of course. So we get Triple H and X-Pac heading out to beat up Owen and The Rock. Mark Henry comes out to help out. Gunn goes out to even the score to help the X buddies, but he's not in the ring to see D'Lo come out of nowhere to give Road Dogg a frog splash while wearing his dreaded chest protector. D'Lo comes in. Kane delivers the tombstone to Road Dogg, and he pins him. So this 5 minutes and 30 seconds, new champions here. But despite Mick Foley becoming a 3-time WWF Tag Team Champion in this match, this is the first time he has won the tag titles as Mankind. So over the span of 1 year, he was able to secure the WWF Tag Belts once with all 3 different personas.
It's crazy.
So obviously, Do Love with Austin. He was tag champs with Terry Funk as Cactus. And then also now we have him, Mankind and Kane. Fascinating. Wild.
Very, very cool. That's one of my favorite things about what we do is finding out little tidbits like that. Is fucking awesome. But I love this version of Mankind. I think this is my favorite iteration of Mankind. I like the helpless, looking for love, kind of thrown in the corner. He's like a rescue dog. It's the best. And man, this was a really fun match. I love the Kane and Mankind dynamic. I think it goes really good together. They fucking work great in the ring. And it was a big moment to take titles off the Outlaws when they're so hot right now. But it was for the better power, the bigger picture, man.
Just want to shout out Shawn Michaels again. Great commentary here during the match, and he added an element to the commentary team that didn't think he could bring. So I really enjoy this, and maybe they were considering having him transition, and maybe they wanted him to be involved in the commentary team, and he didn't want to do it, but he certainly had the chops to do it because he was great.
Yeah, one of the biggest what ifs of 1998 is what if he never came back to wrestle and he just stuck it out on commentary? It would have been insane.
So backstage, we have Triple H talking about DX to Mr. McMahon himself. McMahon has been awfully quiet tonight. Then again, so is Stone Cold. But we lead into our next 6-man tag match, which is just fodder. We have Kai and Tai, Dick Togo, Men's Teo, and Sho Funaki with Yamaguchi-san defeating Taka Michinoku and Too Much, which is Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor, a.k.a. Too Cool, Sky Duati, Grandmaster Sexay. So this match, 3 minutes and 39 seconds, as I said before. We get Too Much shining early on. They are becoming an established tag team, as we are been very critical of the tag division in 1998. They are kind of a breath of fresh air, and I know they're not quite Too Cool yet, but they're a great tag team that I really enjoyed. And RIP to Brian Christopher and all that stuff. And they're talented. These two dudes, it was like even if they were thrown together, they fit so great together, and it's amazing. Kudos to whoever put them together, because they fit. You could see that. Who knew they would be the most overactive in 2000? But holy shit, you could see the promise here.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. I like seeing them before the Too Cool gimmick. You really see them putting a lot of effort towards things. It's not just throw them out there, let them do what they do. Like they're actually trying to show off their skills, their agility, their in-ring fucking awesomeness. But I like seeing them like this over seeing them Too Cool, because you get to watch the journey, see where they get to. So it was cool.
So after the match, of course, we get Val Venus coming out, and he shows Yamaguchi-san a movie entitled Land of the Rising Venus, which is starring, of course, Val Venus and Mrs. Yamaguchi. So obviously Val Venus is now it's over. I mean, now it's choppy pee-pee time, because somehow, some way, he steals Mrs. Yamaguchi, and he is the good guy. And this is just Vince Russo booking. He's the good guy here. He's banging on Yamaguchi-san's wife, and he's the good guy. But he's gonna pay for it soon.
Wild. I did pop for Land of the Rising Venus. The names of these vignettes escaped me as a child, so going back and figuring them out again is brutal, but awesome at the same time. This is wild. This went from there's this porn star wrestler to now it's like he's kidnapping people's wives and making videos with them. Yeah, it's so insane, man. Love it. Absolutely love it.
So we get Vince coming to the ring, and he brings out Taker and then talks about Taker and says, are you working with Kane? So then Taker grabs the mic. He tells Vince, man, go to hell. I'm not working with him. Vince then asks Taker who he thinks he is. Taker backs Vince's recorder, and then we hear Stone Cold Steve Austin's glass breaking. Since Austin is teaming with Taker at Fully Loaded against Kane and Mankind, he wants to know where Undertaker is coming from as well. Austin really trying his best to get an answer, and it's weird because McMahon and Austin are kind of on the same page here. Taker then tells Austin, you can also go to hell. Next thing we know, we get DX coming out because they want to know whether or not they get a rematch for the tag titles tonight, because all the shenanigans that went on. Triple H has an idea to settle everything in their rematch to find out where Undertaker's allegiance really lies, because he wants to figure out, all right, do you actually have Austin's back? Do you have Kane's back? So they had Taker and Austin into the rematch as special enforcers. Vince loves the idea. He says, New Age Outlaws, you get a rematch in the main event. And interesting enough, the interaction between Vince and Triple H was very interesting. And the fact that obviously we see some booking from Triple H as an on-screen character was foretold in the future.
Yeah.
But the fact that they gave away a tag title match, and then they're like, you know what? Let's do it again. Let's roll in the main event again. It's like, come on. You get
it twice, man. This was a great segment. I liked it. I liked the play between Austin, McMahon, Undertaker. Like they're kind of on the same side, like calling them out. Like, come on, man. What do you want out of this? What are you doing? And then Triple H coming out like, fuck that. Like they're all in cahoots. Let's figure this shit out. It really worked really good. This is where you get to see a little bit of broadening on Austin and McMahon's story, to where they're kind of running shit together, but they're not like officially. So it's cool.
Which leads us into a Brawl for All match. And again, it's Dan Severn defeating the Godfather in a Brawl for All match. This was, not great. Severn wins, even though they cried how takedowns won't win you the Brawl for All, and he wins by taking them down. So, yeah. Crowd was chanting they want wrestling. Pretty much were, not pleased by this. But again, this was to take the crowd a little bit down to lead us into the main event. And I guess it did its job to calm them down because no one really cared.
Yeah, in a strange time where Brawl for All has become like the not heater. Like this is the piss break. This is the go get your snacks and come back, and then you get to see Kane and Mankind fucking wrestle all over again.
So now we have Kane and Mankind. They just won the tag titles not even an hour ago, defending their titles against the New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg, with Austin and Taker in there in the corner to be the special enforcers to make sure nothing goes down. Lead us through the match. Goes a little bit longer than the first match, but they gave us more than I thought they would, especially since they did the same thing with the Hell in a Cell where they didn't actually give us the match. They've been famous for just doing these things in the Attitude Era, but they kind of gave us 2 title matches that we didn't get a finish, but it was good.
This was really good. A lot of back and forth. The Outlaws came out hot as shit because they had a point to prove, man. They were pissed. They want their gold back. They want those tag titles, but they were beating the piss out of each other. There was some really, really awesome stuff, like coming off the front of it. Billy Gunn hitting Mankind with the stairs. Like they weren't fucking around, man. They want those belts back. But a great back and forth between everybody. Just awesome stuff. But you know what happens when there's enforcers out there. Chaos fucking happens. Everybody comes out, starts fucking up things. We got Stone Cold did the worst stunner to Kane that I think I've ever seen. He literally flat backed it. He didn't even land on his ass. It was insane. But just chaotic, crazy shit. It got disqualified. No decision. It was awesome. Undertaker and Austin just going back and forth, clearing out the ring. One of my favorite endings to a Raw. I love that visual of 2 guys just beating the piss out of everybody, getting ready. And they get that, that bump. Like, you sure we're on the same page, brother? You gotta love it, man.
I love it. The Nation comes out to beat up the Outlaws after the match. DX comes out, and that's how it goes off the air.
Chaos,
JR is losing his mind, and we see a little bit about this on Dynamite, and Nitro, of course, used to do it. But this is the perfect way to go home, where it goes off the air and everything is just sideways, and nothing. Yeah. No one has done it better than WWF 1998. They know how to do it where they pull you in. Like, I cannot wait to see next week or see the pay-per-view, whatever it is, the next wrestling show is coming on. I have to see it.
Yeah, no, 100%, man.
So that is it for this Raw. We move on to the next Raw, July 20th. The go-home show, we're fully loaded. July 20th, 1998, from Binghamton, New York, the Broome County Veterans Memorial Arena. All the champs are the same, aside from Kane and Mankind, who won the tag titles, as we mentioned extensively. And we open up the show with Mr. McMahon coming out to the ring, and he talks about the last 2 weeks of Taker and how he became number 1 contender for the WWF title, and he continues to kind of stir the pot between everybody, and Vince is stirring the pot between Undertaker and Kane, and he says, the evidence is pretty damning that there's collusion at some level. Vince then calls Taker out, and Taker obliges, comes out, and he says, I'll give you one more opportunity to answer the question as to whether or not you're in cahoots with your brother Kane. McMahon tells Undertaker that he felt disrespected after last week when he was told to go to hell. And if Taker really wants to be the WWF champion that he's capable of becoming, McMahon requires his respect and refuses to take any more of this. No more disparaging comments, no more attacking anybody. Just be straight up with me. Vince asks the question one more time, and then Taker gets angry and just stays quiet. McMahon cools down, and then he tells Taker, you'll learn a hard lesson, because now, tonight, you're going in a handicap match against Kane and Mankind. Taker begins to leave, and McMahon stops him and says, by the way, go to hell. Turns around. Taker has heard enough. No more quiet nature. He chokeslams Vince. Pat Patterson gets punched. Daryl Briscoe takes a chokeslam. Here comes Sergeant Slaughter. He gets a chokeslam. Everybody gets a chokeslam. Taker stands very, very tall, walks to the locker room. McMahon doesn't know where he is at this point. Absolutely great segment. Taker, we don't know his intentions. We know it's clear he is the number 1 contender for Stone Cold, but he's also his tag team partner. So good segment that left us with more questions than answers, which is sometimes a good thing.
The best way to start off a show, right? Because you're left wanting more.
So we lead in our opening match here, and it's for the European Championship, and it's D'Lo Brown getting a shot against Triple H. So D'Lo has The Rock in his corner. China has Triple H has China in his corner, and Triple H has been European champion since taking the title off of Shawn Michaels and that whole thing and that fake farce of a match. But what I really notice about this time, and it really starts when D'Lo Brown tears his pec, where he has to wear this vest because the chest protector has become part of his gimmick, and it fits him so well. And D'Lo is catching fire. So like, I think the booking team and WWF at large and the crowd recognize this, that D'Lo is about to get his first taste of gold, and well-deserved, because if I think about European Championship, I think about D'Lo Brown. D'Lo 100%. Brown to me is the European champion.
No, 1000%. And he looks so great in this 98 run. Like I forgot how much I loved watching D'Lo wrestle, because I remember D'Lo the character more than I do the in-ring work. Dude was killing it. The Sky High is such a beautiful, beautiful finish, and this was great, man. He deserves all the accolades. Hell yeah.
So we have this match here go down with obviously we get shenanigans, of course, because there's no match without shenanigans, and we get D'Lo getting the win and the benefit of Rock hitting the rock bottom on Triple H, which builds towards their match. He then gets the 3 count to win the European title, and his reaction's everything. And this is the first time since September of 1997 that D-Generation X has no titles, and they just lost the tag titles. Obviously, we had Shawn Michaels was the world champion going into the year, and now the European title is no longer in the grips of DX. And now, again, like I said, D'Lo Brown, when I think about the European title, some of the legendary matches he had was with X-Pac throughout the rest of this year. He is everything about the European title. And I don't know, I look back at this reign that he just started now very fondly.
Me too. Absolutely, man. This is partially where you fall in love with D'Lo, especially Owen. Owen kissed him afterwards. Like, it was great. But no, for real, like, guy is a great worker. Loved it all. I'm a proud D'Lo Brown fan. Damn it, super badass.
So Triple H promises The Rock won't leave the building with the IC title. So everything is falling around DX, but we still have the main feud of DX and the Nation comes down to Triple H and The Rock, the two leaders. But there's a lot of good sub story, of course, with Mark Henry and everything. They seem intertwined, and I love it. So we lead into another Brawl for All match, and this is the aforementioned, the guy we talked about before, Dr. Death Steve Williams took on Pierre in a Brawl for All match. And this is, believe it or not, the WWF TV debut of Dr. Death. So they showed a clip of him playing football, and they have actually Barry Switzer, the Sooners football head coach, reminding how tough Steve Williams really is. And Jim Ross is going off at it because the football credentials is just all Jim Ross loves.
So, goddamn.
So this match here, again, Steve Williams does shine here. It wasn't as dominant as they probably wanted. There was no knockout, but Pierre took some punishment. I wonder if they were sweating a little bit, but this is the first time they have a guy they pencil in as, you're going to be the next challenger come fall to Steve Austin as the champion. And you have to really legitimately fight to get there. And it was set up for failure because a guy like Steve Williams, he might have won the Brawl for All, but why did it take that? If you really wanted him to be that badass that he was, similar to what Vader was in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you could have had that with Dr. Death, but they cut his knees out because he got some bad reactions at the house show. Guess what? There's so many guys getting bad reactions. Jeff Jarrett gets 0 reactions. Put him on our screen.
100%, man. Mark Merrow, come on. The guy, they're chanting for the women. They're not even chanting for Mark Merrow anymore. Get it together, man.
So they take us back to the last week, and they show more about Val Venus, where he's now with Mrs. Yamaguchi. And back in the arena, Yamaguchi shows that he's very angry and he wants to punish Mrs. Yamaguchi, not just Val Venus. He holds the ropes open for Yamaguchi, Sun, and Kai so they can all get in the ring. Yamaguchi says now he wants her to do the crawl of shame towards him and then paddle her for wrongdoings. We get Val Venus making the save. He beats up all Kai with the giant paddle. And then Val then helps Yamaguchi-san's wife out of the ring and walks out carrying her in his arm. And pretty much the honeymoon has started. She smiles, he's smiling, and they're off to, do their thing. And yeah, So
It's wild.
this is WWF in a nutshell. So Val
Yeah,
Venus gets the girl, but he somehow is the good guy, stealing Yamaguchi-san's wife. And yeah, he's gonna pay though. Don't worry,
he's gonna pay. He's definitely gonna pay. But I'm loving this segment. Like I'm loving this little feud right now. Like every time it comes on, I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch in the best way possible? So they're doing something right, man.
Another match here. It's Skull with Paul Ellering and 8-Ball versus Road Warrior Animal with Road Warrior Hawk, and it ended in no contest. But this is not a great match at all, and this is pretty crazy. So Hawk is not there. DOA is beating up Animal, and Paul Ellering wants to run over Animal with the Titan bike. Hawk comes out to Animal's aid. Thankfully, Animal doesn't get run over, but the DOA and Ellering continue to beat up until the refs and Commissioner Slaughter put an end to it. So
weird.
What are they building towards with this? Are they just feuding with each other? Like I don't see the point of this. And LOD is, from the pop they got at WrestleMania 14 till July, they've fallen far.
Yeah, no, I feel like they're just kind of writing this feud out, writing the DOA out, writing the teams out. They're just like, all right, we're going to we'll use them as fillers until they can't fill no more.
Well, we get another filler match here, and it's Steve Blackman with Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock defeating Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee, Dennis Knight, and Mark Canterbury. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The bicycle kick from Steve Blackman gets the win. 3 count after 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Owen Hart comes out after he grabs Shamrock, throws him into the steel steps. Dan Severn is not concerned about Shamrock, and he straightens his tie, walks to the back, and I know they think they have something with Shamrock and Shamrock and Severn here with being legit UFC guys, but they don't. Like there's nothing here. This is just, again, similar to the Skull and Road Warrior stuff. It's just
too
fodder.
It's too much of the same thing too. Like if you couldn't bring Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar and put them in a team together, like it would kill both of their runs going. They need to do it separately. These two could have did something way better separately. They're kind of forcing it. You know what I mean? You don't want to force the farts, man.
So we have Michael Cole in the back with Taker. Not much was said here. And then we lead into Warzone with Stone Cold enters the ring, gets a huge pop. Jim Ross meets him in the middle of the ring to talk and just has the mic in front of him. And then Austin grabs the mic from him because really Austin has a lot on his mind. And he says, I'm not concerned about anybody being by my side to help me because I don't trust anybody. And he says, whether Taker is on my side or not, we're going to Fully Loaded. I'm going there to whip somebody's ass no matter who it is. He says that he says that Undertaker left the building, and he wonders if Taker left because he didn't want to fight his brother Kane, or he didn't want Vince to screw him before he screwed himself. And he has a lot more questions for Taker, and we have a lot more talking about. He knows he's facing Taker at SummerSlam. He knows that they're facing Kane and Mankind for the tag titles. But what is exactly going to happen between the two of them? And Austin has more questions, and the fans are buying into this, though.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love when Austin comes out there and he's just like, I don't care what's going on. I came here to whoop ass. Like, how do you not get behind that? You're like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, let's go.
So yeah, awesome promo from Austin. He's just very, very, he's in tune with who he is. And that's something that he said when I saw and to bring it back to Dynamite last night, as we're recording Thursday, the promo of the opening night with the 4 pillars, like, and not to be disparaging on some of those guys, but you could tell Jungle Boy and Darby, they both need to kind of still find out who they want to be on the microphone. And Austin at some point needed to do that as well. And I think practice makes perfect. Being able to go in the middle of the ring and get whatever it is, 4 to 5 minutes, go in the middle of the ring and say whatever you want. Yeah. It's quite clear that Jungle Boy and Darby, they are ill prepared to go toe to toe. Because when you watch a guy like MJF and you watch even a guy like Christian or a guy like, all those guys, they are very, 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 very comfortable with who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do either. You do ring announcing, you know how it goes. You have to find your voice when you're out there doing your shtick, and not everybody gets it. And that's the weird thing. But I mean, Austin is so damn comfortable in his skin. It's ridiculous how smooth it goes.
So lead us through this next match. It's Owen Hart with D'Lo, Mark Henry, and the Godfather taking on Farouk.
Yeah, man. No, this is cool. Farouk rocking this weird new gear. He's got that like red weird shit on it, and not the nation gear, obviously, because we're out of it. But yeah, it's cool to see Farouk back. Obviously going against Owen. You got that nation domination heat growing through. This is actually a really good match. Probably one of my favorites that we've seen with Owen so far. Since we started this awesome journey, they did good back and forth. But shit happens. So the Farouk gets distracted. Owen gets distracted. Farouk's hitting him with power slams and stuff like that. Just awesome back and forth. And Owen gets that awesome, beautiful sharpshooter. Owen sharpshooter is a very underrated sharpshooter. He really locks that shit in, man. Love it. But I can't handle a sharpshooter, and neither can Farouk. Farouk taps out. It wasn't a long match. It was a short. It was a mid match, man. We were at 5 minutes 30 seconds, and then we got Ken Shamrock chasing down Owen through the crowd, man. Fun little way to exit out. I like that.
Yeah, they're building towards that Hart dungeon match. They have it fully loaded, which is what it is. I mean, it's kind of the precursor to the Lions Den match that we're going to see, but they're creating some different areas to do matches, and that's at least fun because as we talk about the back being a living, breathing area where like people are interacting, it's cool to have matches outside of the ring and have, I don't know, different things to settle feuds, not just the standard. We're in the middle of the ring or we're in a cage. How can be creative? And maybe the Hart Dungeon thing didn't hit. Maybe the Lions Den thing wasn't great, but at least they were thinking outside the box.
100%, man. That's why I love the hardcore titles so much, because when they would take it out of the arena and they would fight in different settings, like by the lake or whatever, the middle of fucking New York, it always popped me. It was always good stuff. I like seeing different settings.
So we have Paul Bearer, and he's talking about Undertaker, and I say that he's not on my side, and that if they really wanted that shot at him, Mankind is happy and they are willing to be facing Austin tonight. And as usual, Kane just standing there, just kind of looking, menacing. And then we have Mark Merrow and Jacqueline coming out. They are talking about this bikini contest. Most notably, I want to just talk about Edge showing up in the ring, and off camera gives Mark Merrow what Ross refers to as the downward spiral. So we see the first sort of entry level into a feud with Edge. He leaves throughout the crowd without saying a word, which is so interesting that they give him the silent gimmick because he's so well spoken and so charismatic that they give him the silent gimmick while they let other guys take the mic who don't know how to cut a promo. So it's just interesting how they cast people, but they obviously wanted him to be this loner roamer type of character, and it worked for sure. This vampire thing worked for him, but cool to see the downward spiral because I was a big fan of that move.
Absolutely, man. I thought that this segment was good. I thought Jacqueline and Sable had really good interaction with each other. Pop that Sable comes out in this farmer's dress, this maternity dress. It looks terrible on her, and like, of course, Jacqueline rips it off and exposes the black brown panties, and everything's going crazy. But it was a good segment. Lawler still cracks me up when he's marking out over women. Like it pops me every time. Oh my god, like it's fun stuff. So it was interesting, man.
So we get more killing time. Shawn Michaels comes out and he's going to join the commentators for the final half hour of the show. They show some highlights, and then they're leading into Brawl for All. I think they did this off camera of Scorpio taking on 8-Ball, where Scorpio won the Brawl for All from round 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who really cares? And then we also have Rock promo backstage where he says, "No way that X-Pac will win the IC title from me." And we've been kind of skipping over them, but I wrote some of them down. The JVC Kaboom of the week from Raw 7/13/98 with X-Pac giving Rock the X factor of the upset win. And that's what Sean Waltman made his career on. I mean, he got his entry level into Raw. He pinned Scott Hall, Razor Ramon on Raw, and became the 1-2-3 Kid. And all throughout history, he continues to get these upset wins, and that's where he thrives, as this underdog character who just fights from underneath. And even if DX is this anti-hero, he's still someone you can root for.
Absolutely, man. Did you ever own a Kaboom box? I was dying to get a Kaboom box, man.
Nope.
Thought it was the coolest shit in the world. And even better is that they made them for the toys down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the whole series where you press the button and it would play the theme song. It was the coolest shit in the world. I still have my Jericho one.
So sick. So we have the Intercontinental Championship on the line here, and as X-Pac getting his shot based off the fact that he pinned The Rock the week before, and The Rock has his whole crew with him. It's D'Lo, Mark Henry, Owen, the Godfather, and X-Pac has his dudes and girl with him. Billy Gunn, China, Road Dogg, Triple H. This match goes 9 minutes and 48 seconds, and they go all out, man. This match is really, really good, and I like the way that X-Pac got his shine here. We mentioned the fact he got that upset win the week before, and he's holding his own. But you can see that, and I know we talked about this in 96. We also talked about this. X-Pac seems to be this like common denominator about wherever he goes, the ratings go. And I'm not saying he is the guy that creates whatever, but wherever he goes, the other company I'm sure is missing him. And I know that Bischoff probably looked at X-Pac as being like, oh, he's injured. WWF signed him with the neck injury when he replaced Shawn Michaels in DX. I just think X-Pac is so essential to what they're doing. And I don't know if he ever really got his credit. This match, man, I mean, obviously chaos again. Everyone's getting involved. I mean, the ref has no control. Tim White gets bumped by the ref. D'Lo comes out through the crowd. Triple H is right there to just beat him up. And then Triple H walks over the Rock, gives him the pedigree. You think X-Pac's going to get the title. White starts the count. And then here comes ref Jim Corderas out and says, no, dude, this is not happening. Everyone's involved. So again, we might have had X-Pac being the IC champion. And it's interesting because Triple H has his shot coming up for the IC title, but he's more than willing to let his boy X-Pac win it. We don't really see that with teams, and that winds up being dissension in DX going forward. But at this point, they are a unit. And man, there is a lot to be said about this match. It was very, very good. Rock and X-Pac did their damn thing. 9 minutes and 48 seconds. DQ finish, but man, it still was good.
Fun. Yeah, and it's crazy that I'm noticing a lot too is when we get these more chaotic feeling matches where we have 5-6 people per guy out there, they go longer matches, which I'm here for. This was a very solid, very fun watch, and man, I fucking loved every minute of it.
Following the match, China punched out Corderas for narking on DX. So DX comes out for a brawl. Refs and agents get to put a stop to it, and it's just, man, DX is left to celebrate, which is sort of a loss, but Triple H pretty much he grabs a good-looking girl from the front and says to show her boobs, and she does. It's not the best match in the world as far as work rate goes, but it was just lots of fun, lots of near falls. And this is sort of what you get from the Attitude Era. This is kind of cream of the crop here.
Yeah, and then you got the DX fuckery afterwards. Triple H, come on, do it, baby. It was fun. It was good stuff.
Which leads us to our main event here, and it's Steve Austin taking on Kane and Mankind in a Texas Tornado 2-on-1 handicap match. Live from Binghamton, New York, by the way, Texas Tornado match. Lead us through this match. Of course, there's all the fuckery you could want in a match like this. We know that it wasn't going to end clean. We get a DQ finish, but get us from point A to point B, Belcaster.
Absolutely. And I do want to say Texas Tornado matches were a hopping thing in the 90s. Okay. Texas was so big.
No, I know,
transcended
but I mean,
Texas. No, it's great.
It's just funny to be in Binghamton, probably covered in snow, and it's like 6 miles to the nearest grocery store. And
the best. Yeah. But listen, this match starts off hot, man. I mean, Mankind comes running down, goes right after Austin, and gets fucking knocked with the WWF title. I miss the title shots are the best, man. This is the year, the decade of title shots. Man, I love it. Nobody does it as good, man. We see they cut to Vince. He's like just laughing, enjoying the whole thing. But there's a lot of good back and forth. I mean, Austin is the only guy that could run a 2-on-1 Texas Tornado style match and make it believable, right? Like he's just pissed off, ready to roll. But I mean, Mankind hits Austin with the mandible claw. We got a lot of good crazy shit. I love watching Austin again. I love the Luthez press so much. Nobody does it like fucking he did, man. Austin was so damn good. A lot of good shit, but we get a stunner, we get a bunch of shit. Kane's trying to choke slam, and it was just back and forth, crazy shit. Then we get the Austin tries to go with the chair shot. Undertaker comes out, fucking, and then we get a DQ finish. wild that you would end the go home show, understandably, because you're trying to build up excitement for the pay-per-view, but DQ finish. This could have been a really fun win for Austin, right? But Austin takes out Mankind, beating the piss out of him with a chair shot, and yeah, they're still trying to figure it out. Austin lays out Undertaker with the chair. Beautiful, good way to end it.
Yeah, and now you go into Fully Loaded, like, okay, next Sunday they have to team up, and he just hit him with a chair. How are they going to coexist against this dominant team of Kane and Mankind? And
love it.
Yeah, so I mean, he's holding the WWF title high, and I don't know. This was great. I thought this was an awesome main event.
No, it's like Austin is that guy when it comes down to, oh, I'm here to whoop ass. That's all. I mean, that's what he does, and he did it so damn well that he brought wrestling into a whole different level with it, and it worked out so damn well.
He's Mr. TV guy, baby. So
hell yeah.
we go to WWF Fully Loaded in your house, July 26, 1998, from Fresno, California, the Selland Arena. All the champs are the same. Unless D'Lo Brown is the European champion, as we said. The tag champion still Kane and Mankind. IC champion is still The Rock, despite X-Pac deserving that title. Damn it! What a run for the IC title in an era where title reigns are not long. I mean, he's been holding the championship since December.
Yeah,
so pretty long reign.
Very long reign, crazy, but good stuff. This was like we loaded into fully loaded.
So before the show, they lead in without any video packages, and they open up cold to a Sable. You know, she's in the back. She gives Jerry Lawler a little sneak preview of what she's going to be wearing in the bikini contest. And Jerry Lawler is just like blown away. And we lead into the show with a little video package for Fully Loaded. And our host for the show, obviously Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on the call. And there's something to be said about WWF pay-per-views, especially in the 90s. They just feel different. Like the Raws feel important, but the pay-per-views just hit a little bit different. And no matter what, I mean, when you're making up a card, say like, all right, this can be the opening match. If you look at the contenders of who you would have, of course, Val Venus and Jeff Jarrett opening up a card. Loves the big Val Boski. Loves him. Like, loves Val so much to the point where he gets a huge reaction, gets on the mic. So Val Venus took on Jeff Jarrett, and Jeff Jarrett has his goons with him. Dennis Knight, Mark Canterbury, Tennessee Lee. But Yamaguchi-san is also on commentary because he wants to talk about what's going on with Val Venus. Not the best commentator because he
no Shawn Michaels.
No Shawn Michaels on commentary. This is a pretty decent opener. Val Venus definitely seems to be getting, and again, remember, he was just called up. Like, this is something new to him.
Yeah.
He's getting a little bit under his, these matches under his belt because you can tell he's working hard. Val Venus wins after the O'Connor roll, and we don't really get to see the beautiful money shot, but Val Venus grabs the mic, tells Yamaguchi-san, "You got a small dick, and I have your wife."
Crowd goes wild. It was great.
This match too was good, and Jeff Jarrett is a great dance partner, but this is his role, man. He's mid card on the show, and that's what he always should be. That's what
but you know what's cool is like you see Venus really like showing up, doing the work, man. Really entertaining matches. Like, guy's a workhorse, and he got a weird gimmick, but I see why they put so much effort into him. I fucking love it.
Looks good, and like he'll eventually be IC champion. He'll be European champion, and that mid card, like the divide from IC European level to the world title was so large because you could never see any of these guys going up there to take on Austin. Like Val Venus, he was a certain level, and there was a glass ceiling, I guess, that none of these mid carders could break through from. But there's a big piece of me that I don't know. They start to fine tune who these guys are, and Val Venus is a highlight to me because he goes out there and he puts on some quality matches. And like I said, like you said as well, he's working really hard, and he's like obviously taking all the information in and becoming a better wrestler from week to week. Is he Bryan Danielson? Of course not, but he stands out for the better because there's a real lack of work rate when you watch guys like DOA get in there, and even the Road Warriors at this time. Like Val Venus stands out in a good way.
100%, man. 100%.
We have our boy X-Pac taking on, and I believe this is a non-title match for the European Championship. It doesn't matter, though. Taking on D'Lo Brown with the Godfather in his corner. Lead us through this match and tell us a little bit about what happened.
man, you could see D'Lo Brown's feeling the swagger. He comes down with Godfather. Godfather is full Godfather gear. He's got the chain out. He's got the stogie. He's got the hat. He's rocking and rolling, man. They got the music going. This was a fucking banger of a match, man. This was really, really good. Great back and forth. Exactly what you expect from X-Pac, and an unexpected awesome win for D'Lo Brown. Nobody sells the sky high like X-Pac did, man. That was a fucking beautiful, beautiful finish. But all your favorite, all the greatest hits, man. You're getting the Bronco Buster, the spinning heel kick. You're getting D'Lo Brown doing the head bobble. It's just so damn good, but awesome match, man. Really, really good, and not a lot of fuckery going on, which I like to see. It was not any problems with Godfather and China. I mean, the Godfather tried to get involved a little bit, and that was about it. Not too bad, but awesome. Very highlight of the week, man.
Yeah, when you're talking about like famous rivals and things like that, I would say X-Pac and D'Lo Brown are like up there for rivals in the 90s that they go at it week to week. I mean, these dudes are interconnected for the European Championship, and I love it. I think D'Lo Brown and X-Pac are made for each other, and they, again, 8 minutes, 26 seconds. They did what they could with this time, and they have better matches in the future, but this match was awesome. Like, I think there's a lot to be said about, giving them their time and having their little spot on the card, and they let them do their thing. And again, D'Lo is comfortable with who he is. He something switched in him where he's very, very comfortable from the early days of the nation till now. He's just clearly that guy. Like he knows he's on to something. Same thing with X-Pac. These dudes are just very comfortable, very sure about who they are. And like, this is exactly what they're going to do every time they're in the ring. And it was great. And D'Lo got the win. That's the beautiful part. Next time they're in the ring, it doesn't matter. X-Pac can get the win. These guys just go out there and tear it up, and they'll do it forever. And wrestling is better to have a guy like D'Lo and X-Pac wrestling on any given card.
100%. And the best part, like I said, like you could really see the chemistry of them both in the ring together. Like you felt something special going on, and it was badass. Like I really, really enjoyed the hell out of it.
So we have Kevin Kelly and Tom Pritchard. They're at the WWF.com desk, and they're saying that Taker's not in the building yet. But Tom Pritchard's like, no, Taker won't let his fans down. No worries. He'll be there for the match. We don't know if he'll be there for the main event. The also funny part is, like, the WWF.com desk is supposed to look like this very high tech area where they're like accessing the internet, but it's so funny to see.
Yeah, they get their gateway PC up. The big giant white monitor. It's good
Shawn
stuff.
Michaels meme with the. So our next match here, it's not much to talk about, but Bradshaw and Terry Funk are teaming up, taking on Farouk and Scorpio. I do enjoy that Terry Funk is on here. But before the match, Terry Funk was telling everyone that this will be his last match. But of course it's not. He'll be returning in 6 months.
Shocker. No.
So I'm glad this is not his last match. This match goes back and forth, 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Farouk and Scorpio wind up getting the win here. The 450 splash from Scorpio. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point, we have Bradshaw mad at Terry Funk. Bradshaw beats the ever-living piss at him. And since he is Funk's friend, Scorpio comes over to help. He gets beat up with the lariat. Amazing bump. Farouk checks on Scorpio and gets nailed with a chair. So, yeah, it's funny to see, especially in a couple weeks, we'll see Bradshaw and Farouk on the same side of things with the emergence of the Acolytes. So we're going to see them teaming up soon. I think this might have given the idea, like, these guys kind of fit together, and we're onto something. This might have, I'd be interested to see if anyone that made those decisions saw this match and said, let's just put Farouk and Bradshaw together.
Yeah, no, 100%. I felt the exact same way watching this. It was weird to see Too Cold Scorpio not with Terry Funk and Bradshaw not with Farouk, because, like, mentally, tag team wise, you're like, yeah, it's the APA. We're going. What the fuck's going on? Like, but it was a listen, for what it was a good match. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I love anytime Bradshaw hits the lariat. Sign me up. I'm good.
So we move into Vader taking on Mark Henry in a match of, kind of a dream match if you look at it. And these guys were, if you would have expedited Mark Henry's career another 10 years forward, maybe a little bit less, go 7 years and go 7 years back for Vader. This could be a dream match where a little bit of more mature Mark Henry and a little bit of a younger Vader with a little more to give, maybe in a different setting, maybe New Japan or something, or WCW. I think they would have done it justice. They do show, and it's Vader time foam finger, which is really interesting. This match is short, and the idea is just to put Mark Henry over.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get Mark Henry getting the win here. Henry power slams Vader and splashes him for the win pretty much out of nowhere. Yeah. The thing is with Vader is all that shine that you could have gotten off of him maybe about a year ago at this point is completely gone. This dude is like an abandoned car on the side of the street. Everything's been picked off of it. It doesn't matter. Like, what does Mark Henry really get out of beating a guy like Vader, aside from saying you beat Vader? Vader's a shell of himself, and it's not for his own doing. It's because WWF has given him no opportunity following that SummerSlam match against Shawn Michaels. It's all been downhill since then.
100%. I mean, even in these last couple weeks, we've been covering this. I mean, he's jobbed out the Kane, Taker, you name it. Throw Mark Henry on the list. It doesn't do much for Mark Henry except for, cross the name off the list. And it's a shame. But for what it was, Mark Henry looked like $1 million. Vader, not so much. The foam finger's badass. I do love the Vader time foam finger.
So we get the WWF Tag Team Champions come to the ring. Kane and Mankind. Obviously, Paul Bearer is leading the way. Since there's no Taker, they said they're going to finish the job on Steve Austin tonight. Out come the New Age Outlaws. They're pissed about them, and they want a title match tomorrow on Raw. And Kane or Mankind don't respond, and they just brawl until the refs and agents come out and stop it. Interesting, because this is like a segment on Raw that should be there.
Yeah.
It's on a pay-per-view.
Not a bad feeling, though. I kind of like the segments a little bit on the pay-per-views, but very, very out of place. Absolutely.
Which leads us to our next match here, and this has been this feud that's been building up for a while. It's LOD 2000, Animal and Hawk taking on the Disciples of Apocalypse, 8-Ball and Skull. Of course, Paul Ellering is in their corner. Lead us through this match. I mean, again, it's not a good match at all.
No, not at all.
Not much good to say about it.
Well, I mean, listen, we get a very, very not together LOD. I just feel like they've been off. Not by story wise either. You could just see they're kind of lost out there. Don't know what's going on. DOA is a weird. I'm still not over with the Paul Ellering thing. Nothing's going to make DOA work for me. So, I mean, there's a lot of back and forth. LOD's stiff as always. They hit the Doomsday device. They don't even fucking get a win off the Doomsday device, which is just depressing. As an old wrestling fan, like nobody should kick out. It should be that finish should be just as protected as the one-winged angel. Damn it! But the Animal takes a DDT and gets pinned, and it went on too long. Too little, too long. Exactly.
A DDT ends it though. Like one of those legendary tag teams is just pinned clean with a DDT in the middle of the ring.
One of the toughest guys in wrestling history just takes a DDT, not from anybody important, not Jake the Snake, not Raven.
Jake, exactly.
Yeah, it's fucking 8-Ball or whoever the fuck it is.
Not
terrible.
Not we also follow in this match. We get Vince McMahon coming out to the ring. He's followed by Patterson and Briscoe. And he said, if Taker is a no-show, Austin can have a suitable replacement. And he says, it's going to be the Brooklyn Brawler. So enjoy.
Pop.
Big pop for the Brooklyn Brawler. And leads us into our next match here, which sort of is the beginning of these pre-tape matches, pandemic-era matches, where it's the Hart Family Dungeon match. Special ref Dan Severn, legit tough guy. And it's Owen Hart taking on Ken Shamrock. So to paint the picture for you guys, they meet down in the Hart Dungeon. If you're not familiar with the Hart Dungeon, it's for like this.
They catch you up.
Lore.
Yeah, they give you that cool video package. Yeah.
This is the first match they're going to have since Owen turned on Shamrock to join the nation. So this has been building for a while. And the only way to win this match is by submission. So there's no ropes. Obviously, there is no mat. There's pretty much a wall of weights, free weights, dumbbells in the room. Match is just a fight at this point. So the interesting part is like, this is sort of one of the first times aside from video packages that we see the Hard Dungeon in action
ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is, we hear about it. And I don't know if this is the first time we ever see it on camera. I think we might see it. You know what? We do see in the WrestleMania 12 build where like they're showing Bret Hart training for the Iron Man match. But other than that, seeing it on TV was interesting, but, we get Owen knocking him out cold with a dumbbell and then puts him in the sharpshooter. And then he slaps Shamrock's arm on the mat to pretty much fake a tap out. This is different. Like, kudos to them for just thinking
Yeah.
outside the box, in my opinion. I think this was interesting enough to be like, all right, cool. They're trying something. And did it work? Probably not, but it was worth a try. And I do remember this sort of fondly, but it definitely didn't hold up over time.
No, I think this would have went over better nowadays than it did back then. I think this was a little too out of the box in '98, but I think this, if they would have did this in like 2007, and like, because people knew what the Heart Dungeon was more, and they know the mystique and lore about it. I mean, not that they didn't back then, but it was bigger, so they probably would have been like, damn, this is the Heart Dungeon, like shit's getting crazy, blah blah blah. But yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting. I want to know, with all the money the Hart family has, all the money, how can they not afford better walls than those shitty wood, like Wisconsin Dells fucking back walls, man? It's the craziest shit. But listen, it fit the time and place. It was interesting. It was a cool watch.
It looks like an early '90s dentist office with the
or the back rooms is
exactly like, the back room, like you play Connect 4 while waiting to get your tooth extracted.
Yeah.
So we lead into this next match, and to me, this was the match I'm most looking forward to on the card. It's the WWF Intercontinental Championship, best 2 out of 3 falls. The Rock, of course, with his gang with him, D'Lo, Mark Henry, Godfather. Triple H has his gang with him, Billy Gunn, China, Road Dogg, and X-Pac. This is 2 out of 3 falls. So lead us through. I mean, let's start with the first fall. Tell me a little bit about the first fall and what goes on. Of course, we see the referee finally take control and say, get rid of the Nation in DX, and only China can stay because she has a manager's license. So
brilliant,
because
good
we
booking.
Finally get these dudes away.
And who remembers manager licenses anymore? Nobody. It was good. But listen, this was a hot ass start. They literally get out there. They're beating the piss out of each other. We get some trying a fuckery going on, but they keep calling it out. And like, things subside. So it is a very, very one-on-one match, which I love. They are trying. I mean, D'Lo's out there. Billy Gunn tries to make a fucking run out there. Godfather. It's just a clusterfuck of who's trying to make their way down and get their spot back from ringside, but it ain't having it. So there's a lot of great back and forth. I think Rock and Triple H, not only the chemistry shows, but this is the best way to do it. Like, you really have to stretch it out. We get 20 minutes of wrestling in this first fall. Like, it's insane. This is how you do a 2 out of 3 falls match, which we need more of those, man. I love the longevity matches, but the Rock hits the rock bottom, gets the first fall at 20 minutes and 24 seconds into the match. That's insanity. That's like watching a main event on its own, but beautiful. I mean, Triple H sells the shit out of it. Looks fucking beautiful. Loved everything in that first fall.
Yeah, and despite the fact that they were kicked out from ringside, we still get the people with the fuckery. The Nation and DX are out there. We do get a clean fall at the end. I mean, D'Lo does hit Triple H with the European title, but we do get
shenanigans.
A lot of the whatever. It's just like, why? I don't know. Why get rid of them from ringside if you're going to let them be used?
Very true. Yeah, it doesn't. That part doesn't make sense. But it was. I mean, of course, the deviousness of both factions, they're going to make ways to get down there and work it out and fuck around. So better to do it in the first fall than the rest of the show, right? So
True.
that there's that.
So we lead into the second fall, and there's a little bit of a minute-long rest period here, which is interesting as well. Rock comes back with a catapult onto the Spanish announce table, back in the ring. Rock hits the people's elbow, which is more than this was not his finisher, clearly, because he didn't go for a pin after it. And then he just gets a 2 count when he eventually does pin him. Triple H hits Rock with a clothesline, brings D'Lo pretty much back to life. He climbs up the apron with his European belt in hand as China comes over. He pulls him down to the guardrail. Mike Chioda has no control of this match right now. He goes to the outside, tries to put a stop to shenanigans while X-Pac sneaks through the crowd and delivers an X Factor to The Rock. That's important because, as we saw on Raw, that's what beat him the week before. So everyone thought it might have been the finish. Triple H crawls over, covers him. Nope, no go. Kicks out at 2. And then Triple H brings in a chair. China now has Chioda's attention. Like, Chioda is the worst referee on the planet. Allow all this to happen. Hunter and Rock were fighting over the chair until Triple H takes into that infamous bump. These matches here, Rock hits Triple H with a clothesline, looks back and whacks him with a chair. China then stops a low blow, and then Triple H gets the pin because China gives the Rock a DT on the chair, hides the evidence, and Triple H covers after the pinfall. Interesting they didn't do the pedigree here. 26 minutes and 36 seconds.
No, absolutely. But this was a really fucking loaded second fall. Like there was a lot going on there. Really, really fun stuff. I love like when China's distracting the ref, Rock and Triple H going at it, like the fierceness, like they're ready to beat the piss out of each other. You can't deny how awesome that is.
So for the third fall, they do another rest period, and we know at this point they don't have the clock on the screen, but it's a 30-minute period, and if you're doing the math, there's only 4 minutes left, and we have Triple H about to win. He delivers the pedigree, goes for the pin, 1, 2, and then the ref calls for the bell, and everyone thinks that Triple H is the new IC champion, but now they ran out of time. So Rock retains, and Triple H will be getting a shot in the ladder match, as we mentioned, that I've been talking about the whole season so far for 12 episodes at SummerSlam. So, man, this is a big test for the both of them. We talked about the 60-minute Iron Man match being a huge test for MJF, but 30 minutes in 1998 for two guys that are relatively, they're not new, but they definitely don't have the credentials they have at this point now that they did then. This point, like, Rock is still fairly new, 1996 WWF debut. So Triple H as well. Like, this is a pretty big badge that they can hold and be very proud of. This is stamp of approval from management. Like, these two future world champions, make the IC title important. Go out there and do your thing.
100%. I love the finish too. The Triple H hitting the pedigree, goes for the barely can make it to the cover, and the ref's just like, nope, we're out of time, kid. Like, sorry, pal, your flight's gone. It already took off. Like it, but you see the heartbreak in Triple H's face, like, come on, and the crowd was eating it up. It was a beautiful moment for a 2 out of 3 falls match, and it really had emotion at the end of it because I thought Triple H was going to get that pin. Who knew what was going to happen? But the Rock wins by no contest, draw, right? Yeah, it's a draw. So it was good stuff, man. Really, really fun.
So we get Kevin Kelly and Tom Pritchard announcing that Undertaker's ride back at the WWF.com table. We also get a quick vignette for Dustin Runnels coming out to pray for the souls before the next segment. He warns that the Messiah is coming very soon. We'd never get the end of this. Of course, Goldust, Dustin Runnels, he's looking for that new character, trying to find his identity a little bit, but we don't get this Messiah character. Wonder what this would have been. Yeah,
very weird. Maybe a precursor to Right to Censor.
Possibly.
Because it seems like it was. He had the white button up on. He was ready, like, oh, don't watch this next contest. It's gonna be bad. But listen, it was at least give him props for trying to reinvent himself over and over again.
So we have the Sable versus Jacqueline bikini contest. So at this point, this is where women's wrestling is. Love it, hate it, or whatever. This is the state of women's wrestling at this point. Puts in perspective where wrestling is now, especially on big stages where we get a match like Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte. This is the marquee women's spectacle at this event, and it's just a bikini contest and whatever. The Sable's bikini or lack thereof with the two hands covering her chest, very memorable moment. Like, really, absolutely. I remember the pictures of this, and King's reaction makes it, and even Jacqueline's bikini was very revealing at this. Like,
absolutely.
This just shows they're pushing the envelope in so many ways with the violence, the blood, the questionable content, and then obviously the pretty much nudity on screen. It wasn't complete nudity, but
it was close enough for an 11. I was gonna say for 11, 12-year-old. I mean, this is Skinamax, man. We're having a great time.
So yeah, you can go back and watch. The Sable pretty much gets the win here with the crowd because she's not wearing a bikini; it's painted on. So she finds a loophole, but
it was over.
Moment. But again, this is just a perspective taking exercise when you look at where women's wrestling is now and where it used to be not too long ago.
Crazy, right?
And for the main event here, we have the WWF World Tag Team Championship. And this also, again, serendipity of comparing this to WrestleMania main eventing night one for the tag titles. We talked about, everyone was like, when was the last time a main event to the pay-per-view? And I don't think this was the last time. This is one of the few times that the tag titles main event to the pay-per-view. I don't think it was the last time. I would say the the power trip maybe with Triple H and Austin probably would have been the last time.
Yeah.
But this was the main event for the tag titles, and the tag titles, which would at one point was being feuded over with LOD 2000, is now in the main event with the biggest, well, 4 biggest stars in wrestling in 1998. Lead us through this match a little bit. Tell us what you liked about it. I mean, this was the Attitude Era in a nice little neat package in about 18 minutes or so.
No, absolutely. Listen, you could feel the animosity in the air. You didn't know if Taker was switching sides. Austin was out there like a lone dog doing his thing, but Taker shows up, man. And Austin's not taking shit. He flips him the bird. He's like, "Come on, kid." I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody. I'm so cold, Steve Austin, right? But they're going back and forth. Austin fucking hits a beautiful stunner really early, but like a lot of good stuff, man. Your typical shit. This really built up everything possible. I mean, you're getting your nasty ass chair shots, you're getting stunners, you're getting mandible claws. Like it's a brawl. These guys are out there just whooping massive ass. And I mean, what better 4 guys to be out there too? Like, as you said, this is the Attitude Era in a main event match. Like, this is crazy. But the shocking thing is Austin and Taker win the tag titles, man. I was mind blown. A visual, talk about a visual, fucking 2 enemies. Guys are headlining SummerSlam and going after each other. They're walking out of there with the tag titles. Fucking wild, man.
I love the end of the finish where he's just beating up Kane and Mankind, and Jim Ross is like, "There ain't no conspiracy." Hits both of them with a chokeslam, and then he drills Kane with a tombstone. He covers Kane. Austin leaps over him to clothesline Mankind. Great finish, as you mentioned.
Loved it. Yeah.
Count. New tag champions, and after the match, to show that there's still distension with them, they're not on the same page, even though they won the titles together. Taker grabs both belts, walks up, and Austin's just looking at him like, "What the hell?" Man, this is sort of, again, you can make a commentary like, should this be on traditional tag teams? And that was what WWE has done for a while, and they continued that for a bit, where they would just throw the tag titles involved in main feuds. So you can go back to Shawn Michaels and John Cena building up their feud WrestleMania 23, where they were tag champs going into it. Yeah. You can even go back,
I forgot all about that.
Eddie and Rey Mysterio have a singles match at WrestleMania as tag champs. But what I really like about this is clearly the tag division is in a rebuilding phase. Like, we talked about Too Much, and we talked about the New Age Outlaws, but other than that, there's not a lot in the tag division. So having them profiled here, and first of all, the tag titles, absolutely beautiful. Probably the last title belts that were changed at all. They were the last ones in 03 when they first got changed over on Raw. They were still hanging around. Those original titles were hanging around from the same exact model that used to be the ones that Demolition held at WrestleMania 6 back in the day. The same exact model.
Man. Yeah.
It was nice to see them here. And like, I would, honestly, I think the tag titles helped this feud get forward. It wasn't just a throw in. These were emphasized here. And this was the main event of a pay-per-view. And it wasn't SummerSlam. It wasn't WrestleMania, but Fully Loaded was a big moment to have the tag titles being showcased. And your 2 biggest stars in the company are holding them. I think it was great for tag wrestling.
100%, man. And like you said, just the amount of character we had in this main event, so well done. I don't know what the meshing point is, but they mesh so goddamn well together. Like, who would have thought that Kane and Mankind, 2 guys wearing masks, massively fucking, like, Kane's not talking. Foley and Paul Bearer are carrying the fucking gimmick, basically. But they get in the ring and it's magical. I mean, all the way until that tombstone was fucking brutal looking, and it was so awesome, man. Just the best. I can't believe that this was the main event and how fucking beautiful it was. I really, really enjoyed the shit out of it.
So it provides the setup for the SummerSlam main event as we go towards it, where these are unlikely tag partners. And they did this exact same thing with Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels a year earlier, but it worked. So, like, why not just do it again? And as I said, it's sort of a formula that they've used in the past to get main events over. And it's a certain aesthetic that feels cool, that these unlikely, as WCW puts it, strange bedfellows are part of the feud as the tag titles, and they have to find a way to defend them. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good, and it was electric. I mean, you look at the crowd, and they were hanging from the rafters. There's something tangible about the energy of the Attitude Era with the signs, and just the crowd is so invested. And I understand, Everyone makes the joke, like not a cell phone in sight because there were no cell phones, but truly everyone was engaged in the product. Everyone was so in the moment. And that's what really makes the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era is that people are just, they're so invested in what's happening in front of them. And it's just evident. Like when you're watching it, you can feel the energy from the crowd, the referees, the talent, and it was a time to behold. And are there warts in the Attitude Era? Of course. But I think Attitude Era, like in moments like this is where you're like, this is what makes it so great and why people look at it so fondly.
100%, man. Very, very well put.
Let's get to the chaser, talk about our favorite part of these 2 episodes of Raw, and of course, the pay-per-view.
The chaser.
Oh, yeah.
All right, chaser time. Every week we give our favorite part, and today we'll pick from Fully Loaded and the 2 Raws. Mike Belcaster lead the way. What was your favorite part to talk about?
My goodness, this was the toughest one I think we've ever done because there's so much going on. I mean, from Kane and Mankind winning the tag titles, defending them again in the same night, and going on through everything. But I really have to narrow into that 2 out of 3 falls match. It was some great fucking entertaining wrestling, even though the main event was really good too. This was special, man. I mean, it's very, very awesome. Love the finish for it. Love the Rock. Love the chemistry between Rock and Triple H, and the fuckery between DX and the Nation. It's perfect. So absolutely enjoyed the shit out of it. But that is my chaser pick of the week, man.
I have to agree with you. I usually want to pick separately than you, but I completely agree with you. I thought this was awesome. To see a mid-card title feels important. I think now it has me feeling very excited about what they're going to be doing with Gunther going forward and what they have planned for him with the IC title. And you can make the argument now that the IC title is more important than ever. And probably the last time it was as important was at this point where this was being used as a launch pad to get to the world title picture. And whether we know it or not, at the end of this year, Rock, after losing this IC title at SummerSlam, would be 2 months removed from winning that Deadly Games tournament. And he's going to be the world champion.
That's insane.
Are we going to see eventually as the world champion? I hope so. And I hope the IC title plays a pivotal part of that, because whoever takes the IC title from him should get a lot of the rub that Gunther had, because you're adding some prestige to the title and moving on. The IC
100%.
title loses a lot of luster throughout the rest of the year, like following Triple H and going through the rest of the, the Attitude Era. 2000 probably is the worst era for the IC title. It gets damaged big time with guys like Albert and Test and guys like, whatever. That is what it was being used for. But the IC title,
the original TNA.
If you look at the IC title, I feel like that the best barometer of how it was felt was William Regal, WrestleMania 18, coming out against RVD with the title upside down. Upside down. And they pull away. I think they realized, but that was almost like this unspoken commentary of like, fuck, man, this is what the IC title is now. Upside down, coming out on pay-per-view. And they went so many WrestleManias not even defending the IC title. So to see it being prominently displayed in 98 and then also on SmackDown today, where SmackDown is like the IC championship is very important. And it's essential because no one's taking that goddamn world title off of Roman. So the IC title is this nice mechanism to build
breath of fresh air. Absolutely, man. You couldn't have been better. Like they when they do it right, they do it right. But when they do it wrong, as you said, William Regal walking out with the belt upside down, it does not paint a good picture on not only the title, but the fucking people holding the title and the company.
It might have been WrestleMania 17 now that I think about it, because Regal wrestled Jericho for the IC title, and he also wrestled RVD in both pay-per-views. I'm not sure which one he walked out, but he opened both shows.
Yeah, it's wild.
Either way, the IC title takes a nosedive following that. So 98, 99 still important. 2000, it's still important, and then it starts to slide for a bit. Like you go back to the Invasion where it gets combined and all that's edges with the US title and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just awesome to see the IC title getting a lot of love. And it's such an important championship with so much lineage. That's the other thing. You can't buy lineage. That's like what we're seeing with AEW, and it's history. You can't buy history. I mean, you can certainly purchase WCW when they go out of business. You can buy Ring of Honor and fill your video library, but you can't buy prestige. And this title exists in your company. So why not use it to build new stars? And that's what they were doing here. You can say the same title Gunther held is the same title that Rock and Triple H held, and they fought so valiantly over in the summer of 98. Like, why not?
It's insane. Yeah, absolutely, man. Crazy shit.
All right, so let's close the tab. Let's build up towards next week, episode 13 of season 3, which is coming up, and let's get for the rest of the week in the tavern.
Closing the tab.
All right, slap hands, Steve Austin. The lights are coming on the bar. It's time for the final wrap up. As we said before, next week's show will be episode 13 of season 3, 4/28, 2023, which will be July 27th Raw, the August 3rd Raw, and the August 10th Raw. So 3 straight Raws we'll be covering. We're building up towards Highway to Hell, SummerSlam 98, Taker and Austin in that pivotal match at MSG. Obviously, Rock and Triple H in the ladder match, but so much else on that great card.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to it. We are right in the mix of things, man. We're approaching past the midpoint season of season 3 here, right? Past
Crazy,
the midpoint
yeah.
point.
Flies by, man.
So season 4 will be, as we mentioned, a short season. Smoky Mountain Wrestling all the year 1994. We'll be covering I think every episode will be 2 months of the year. So don't know how it's going to go. We're going to just try our best to cover it and see how it goes. And then, of course, season 5, which we did not announce yet. We're going to be announcing it soon. I think we're pretty confident what it's going to be, but we will announce it soon. And that will lead us into episode 100. By the time that ends, episode 30 of season 5 will be episode 100, believe it or not. And congrats. Speaking of episode 100, congrats to the Extra Cooler Boys. Celebrate episode 100. Great episode. Make sure you guys check that out on anywhere you can find podcasts. And also check out the flagship. Episode 150 just dropped of the flagship about AEW Dynamite. Believe it or not, 150 weeks straight of AEW.
I feel like we just hit 100.
Crazy,
like
right?
it's absolutely insane. But kudos to everybody. I mean, hitting 100 is not an easy game to do with anything, let alone a podcast. So fuck yeah, guys.
So lead us in. I mean, you had a great Fig night. You talked and opened some stuff. I saw you had Diorama Dad on the wrap up last time.
Yeah, man, kidnapping all the collectors as much as I can. Diorama Dad is a happy addition to the AEW wrap up. You know, it's a hard time for get people in there. He's a fun conversationer. So awesome stuff. Next week on Fig Night, we are having a WCW Monday Nitro stage special with our beautiful guest hosts, Sam Roberts,
oh hell yeah,
and Steve Ozer. We're gonna plug the shit out of that beautiful massive stage so everybody can get one of their collection. We need to get those numbers up, make it good, and we're gonna go all deep on WCW like we love to do right here at Shot of Nostalgia. We're bringing it over to Fig Night, so be sure to tune in for that bad boy. And yeah, man, that's my love right there.
All right, as for my shilling, as we have less than 3 minutes left, make sure you guys go get Remarkable Wrestling tickets. Cream of the Crop 2 happening from Coram, New York tomorrow. Make sure you guys get it. Doors at 7, bell at 8 p.m. Main event by Ken Broadway and Gabriel Sky for the Remarkable Championship. 2 out of 3 falls, just like the Triple H and Rock match. Serendipity. And also check out my interview with Nobody's Better Than Michael Mastretta from NYWC and also CZW. We recorded it. It's available on audio. It dropped on Wednesday on Turnbuckle Tavern. It's also on the ACEFIELD Retro page. You guys can check that out. No video of it, just audio this time. So great conversation with a great guy. Was just lost the NYWC championship at Psycho Circus, but looking to retain it. And, check out NYWC Master of the Mat happening April 29th. He'll be competing there. Alex Coughlin will be there. If you guys like Alex Coughlin, he'll be there. So support independent wrestling any way you guys can. And also follow me at ACEFIELD Retro. And make sure you guys, I'm like 5 away from 5,000 as we're recording this. Maybe it gets up there. So we are approaching a pivotal point. Make sure you guys go to the turnbuckletavern.com and buy some shirts. Leave a review, please. If you like this show, if you like anything we're doing, all the hard work we're putting in, make sure you guys show the love by just leaving a review. 5 stars goes a very long way, especially on Apple. It helps the algorithm, pushes us up further. Easy for me to say, pal.
100%, man. And we got one less podcast in the realm to compete with because Dax's podcast is just we should be up in that 50 spot. Give us some love. Give us some love.
All right, Belcaster, lead us out. We'll be back next week, guys.
Yeah, top guys shit. Top guys fucking running it. My God, it's been a hell of a night. We gotta go, damn it. Everybody's going crazy. Thanks for joining us.